Egypt is just a gift that keeps on giving, isn't it? I mean, as a content creator whose job is to talk about dumb shit, Egypt truly is a bottomless gold mine. So, what did they do this time? I'm glad you asked, because boy do I have a funny story for you. As you all know, Egypt relies on tourism for a big portion of its GDP, but recently the class of tourists who have been coming have been mostly on the less rich side of things, which is perfectly fine and valid, but as a destination you obviously would prefer to have richer clients visiting so you can rip them off. I mean, because they can afford the more expensive things you have to offer and thus you profit more. That's how any sane person would think anyway. Not the Egyptian government though. Now, when you see boats, good-looking ones at that, you would assume that whoever owns them has got some nice dough in their bank. That may not be the case, of course, but it's the impression most people would get. Yachts are heavily associated with wealth, and if you think assuming shit is wrong, I'm with you, but a money-hungry corporate regime who seems to assume anyone has something to rob would disagree. With that in mind, let's assume you were that regime. What would you do if, hypothetically, of course, a rich-looking crew of content creators who mainly do boating content came to your country for a visit? I know this is a hard question. I'll give you some time to think. Clock's ticking. You better hurry up and make a decision. So what'll it be? You letting them in, making sure they have a fun time so they would be willing to spend more money, free visits, do word of mouth marketing for you, get free through their content? My. You are very smart for a person who willingly watches me. Dare I even say, you're smarter than the Egyptian government. As it so happens, a crew of content creators have been to Egypt recently. The channel is called Sailing Zatara, and guess what? They make boat content. I mean, it's literally in their name. And in a pattern that I think anyone would have noticed by now, they have some shit to say about their experience, or rather their ordeal. So let's hear it.
We finally made it back to the Mediterranean Sea. After 6 months in the Red Sea, we're so excited to be back in lush green mountains and turquoise waters.
So I'm guessing they didn't enjoy the yellow plains. Fair enough. I hear it too.
And be in a place where we're welcome and safe. In this episode, we're going to revisit our last few weeks in Egypt. But unfortunately, the Egyptian government prohibited me from filming any encounters with them, their boats, or their boarders.
The only way you get that kind of footage is hidden cameras and mics, which I encourage you to do, actually. If any creators are watching me, somehow, get a wire mic and put it on your shirt. 1, that footage would be so fucking interesting, and 2, it will give you more credibility.
All right, so we're sitting here in Kos, Turkey. I just wanted to go over a few things. A lot of people ask questions about our Suez Canal crossing. What happened in Egypt? Why did we leave Egypt? What were our thoughts on the Middle East? I'm going to break all that down right now. We're going to unpack all that right now. First of all, the first question I had was the Suez Canal pilot. There was 2 pilots, and you go halfway through the canal, the pilot gets off, and he goes and stays somewhere, and the next morning a new pilot comes.
Now, I don't know the first thing about navigation or sailing or any of that shit, and it seemed sketchy to me that they were required to get an Asian on board while crossing, but they seemed nonchalant about it, so I thought maybe it's standard procedure in a national waterway. So, I went and did some research and found out that the Suez Canal actually has a website. And not only that, it is pretty up to date and even looks modern. A rare occurrence for a .gov site. Usually they don't even work, let alone be up to date and modernized. Anyway, I didn't really find anything useful there regarding procedure of crossing and whatnot. Then I realized I could just search up the same channel I'm watching right now. Surely they have crossed other canals, and I was right. I found a 6-year-old video for the Panama Canal, and indeed they were required to have a guide there as well. So apparently this is not the Egyptian government being nosy, for once.
It only takes total to go from one end of the Suez Canal to the other about 12 hours. So they're just there for half a day, and yeah, we give them some food if they want it. Most of them bring their own food and stuff like that. You're not supposed to give any money to them. If they ask for money, don't do it. That's against the law. You can get in trouble. They get in trouble. They can lose their jobs even if they ask for it. They might ask for it in form of a souvenir or something like that. So just don't do that. It's bad for them, and you can tip them if you want to, but not because they ask.
Well, it's good that he pointed that out. Normally giving officials money is the easy way to make things go away. So I'm glad he pointed out the exception here.
Once again, for all those who didn't know, it was $1,100 for us to go one way through the Suez Canal. That included pilots, agent fees, all the different things like that.
If you go on the Suez Canal website, you can find a table of toll fees for all vessel types according to tonnage. I can't even read this fucking thing, but here it is anyway, in case anyone is interested. And to prove that I actually do my homework for these shitty videos.
The Middle East, the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, and that whole area and our experience there. We as Westerners, even people from Europe and Westerners and cruisers from around the world, you truly don't understand limited freedom of movement until you go to these places.
I keep saying that, but people think I'm exaggerating. It can't be that bad. Well, yeah, it's not. It's even worse. I just don't share everything, but every single detail matters to get a full picture. However, that is best obtained through first-hand experience, which this guy has had.
You can move in these countries around in your yacht, but it's not something they're used to. They're not used to a cruiser showing up there, checking into the country, and then going on their way. And I give you a good example. We just checked into Turkey the other day.
One.
All right, we're checked in. Excellent. Easy enough.
20 minutes to check in here. Cost the agent fee for that was 160 bucks, and the visas were 50 bucks a pop. He gave me a cruising permit right there. Went to immigration. I mean, it all took less than an hour. I don't have to talk to him again or anybody with the Turkish officials until I leave Turkey. And I can go wherever I want, anchor just about wherever I want. I don't have to ask permission. I just have to make sure on the charts I'm not anchoring in a restricted military zone or something like that. And that's the way it is in most of the world.
20 minutes to finish government paperwork, and it gives you full freedom to move around the country and the water. That sounds like a dream to me. A wet dream, if you will. You know, because it's water.
The Gulf states, you know, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Egypt, especially Egypt, they're not ready for it. They're not ready for cruisers to be there. They want cruisers to be there, but they're not used to the freedom of movement issue. They don't know how to deal with it. You know, we'd show up at an anchorage out there, we'd have 20 guys harassing us. I mean, every day there'd be a different set of people harassing us.
Tell me what's going on.
Well, we are unhooking from the mooring ball because what was legal last time is not legal this time.
That's good. That's so fucking good. That is such a great way to put it. I like this guy already.
We've been in Egypt now for what, 2-3 months?
Yeah, long time.
And every time we come to a new port, the Navy and the police, they all come out here, and one group doesn't know what the other group's doing. They don't know. They don't talk to each other.
The usual way of running things. Different sectors operate independently, which results in confusion when you try to get anything done. You are very likely to be giving conflicting instructions by different people for the same thing, or even have a discontinued form asked of you, which is something that has happened to my family, personally.
And so this group is telling me I can't be here, I gotta leave, I'm a security risk. I don't know what I'm a security risk to. And then so that's the thing we're doing, is we're having to deal, you know, there's just a problem because the Navy, this is a military government here, and they run everything, and so they're paranoid. They think we're a security risk.
The current system is a result of a military coup, so of course they're paranoid. And as he said, the military runs everything, which enables them to enforce their paranoia and even make it into something known as the law. Or something that looks like it anyway.
And I guess after 2 months in Egypt, we finally got to the point where it was overwhelming. I mean, every time we took our dinghy ashore, there would be somebody there to harass us, whether it be the Navy, whether it be Coast Guard, whether it be the police. There'd be somebody there asking for our papers. What are you doing here? You can't be here. Where did you come from? Hold on a second. And they detain us for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. The next day there'd be a new guy on shift and they would detain us as well. The government, we already know. We talked to the Coast Guard.
Where?
Here, Tawila Point, Coast Guard.
Tawila Point here.
Yeah, we talked to them. It doesn't matter. We have permission to be here. My agent, Felix agent, they know I'm here. Felix agent. It got very old and very disheartening, the harassment.
Are you ticked off?
I am. I'm tired of the harassment. I mean, that's the biggest thing here in Egypt. You know, I try to put myself in their shoes. I try to understand, and it just boils down to, I don't know what it boils down to.
They don't trust what they don't know.
If you don't have a very patient mentality, you should not go to Egypt and spend long-term time there. If you go there to spend a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks there, that's great.
Aha! That's what I've been saying. Potentially good to visit, never good to live in. If you spend more than a month somewhere, you pretty much are living there, albeit temporarily. The excitement fades away and you start seeing it for what it is. Case in point, a shithole.
We used Felix Maritime Agency, one of the best agents we've ever used. And let me tell you something, if you're gonna go to Egypt and spend time in Egypt, you're gonna need an agent that understands all the bureaucracy and all the rules that the government hands down. Our agent fought for us all the time because There was always some Navy guy. There was always some Coast Guard guy, police officer, somebody harassing us that didn't know the rules and didn't know the permissions. And so our agent Felix was always in contact, always there hammering on these guys to leave us alone. That meant a lot to us. I mean, you definitely want to have an agent if you're going in Egypt. Saudi Arabia was wonderful. We loved Jeddah, but in the same breath, they're not used to yachties moving around either. They're not set up for it yet. Their military's not set up. They don't quite understand freedom of movement. Just like when we were cruising in Saudi Arabia, we could not go ashore. We couldn't anchor and then go walk on shore on some nice beach or anything like that. That's a no-go. That's a no-go deal. So there's a lot of control and limited freedom of movement.
Now, take that and apply it to every single little aspect of life. That's how we live. Granted, it was never great here, but it wasn't always this terrible. Pre-2011, things were a lot better, but since in 2013 and took over, it has been from bad to worse to worse to fucking worse, on and on and on and on and on and on. And it doesn't stop.
And to get the freedom of movement to go to all the islands and all the reefs that we did in Saudi Arabia, you had to have an agent to get that done. You have to have a different mindset because it is definitely something that goes away from what you're used to as a cruiser. In the end, in Egypt, the reason we left is because the last 2 or 3 weeks we were there, I began to feel very unsafe. We put a video out where you guys all saw the video where the guy was trying to shake us down for some money, and some higher ups in Cairo in the Coast Guard or the Navy saw that and it pissed them off. They didn't like it. They didn't like the fact that we were putting that on video or anything like that.
Ah, there it is. My God, are they stupid? They saw this happen not even a year ago with the best ever food review show. This exact same shit happened, and it happened with a bunch of other creators as well since, some of which I have even covered on this channel, but those didn't quite blow up like the food show thing did. And now it's happening again. I've been seeing this video doing rounds, it's how I found out about it. So in an effort to cover their asses, they flashed even more people with it. Great job, retards. Keep doing you.
And so the word we got, and this is only the word we got, this is hearsay. Once again, this is what people were telling us on the ground. The people who knew us, they were saying, the reason you're getting harassed even more now is because you put that video up. And they told the Navy, they told the Coast Guard, they told everybody along the coast of the Sinai to fine us, to harass us, to try to take our boat, do something to make our lives miserable. And when I finally got that word, we were in Dahab. And I felt like I might lose my boat, and I felt like we might be in danger of being imprisoned or something like that there, because these guys were unrelenting, and they weren't wearing uniforms. They were Coast Guard guys, I think. Never did get the real story out of these guys.
Isn't it hilarious though? The first time this guy feels like he's in danger of losing his boat is not pirates, it's not some natural disaster or a storm or anything like that, or even wildlife. It's our government. Now, that is some reputation, especially for a tourism-reliant country. I swear to God, you cannot make this shit up.
We're heading up to the border of Egypt, the northern border here in the Gulf of Aqaba, and right over the line there, just a mile up here, is freedom, Israel. And I'm not saying Israel's great, I'm just saying that we don't get harassed there. There's freedom of movement. There's nobody trying to tell us we can't do this or we can't do that. And
oh, ho, ho. This part must have pissed some people off. I personally don't really give a shit one way or the other. I'm on his side though. I don't think Israel is great, but I would take it over here any day without a second thought.
as we go in here to Taba after yesterday's events, we were harassed yesterday, we were threatened yesterday, and by the Navy the day before that. They wanted to arrest us. They called the guys in Dahab, the Navy did, and told them to arrest us and make us pay a bunch of money, you know.
No reason.
For no reason.
I wonder if they would be charged with terrorist activities. Maybe they would get creative with the bullshit charge this time, since it's their first time in a while arresting a creator on the water, if not the first ever.
Felix Maritime has done a great job of trying to make this painless, but I can tell you that after 2 months, 2.5 months in Egypt, as much as an agent does for you, there's no overcoming the
I think it's fear. They're afraid of us.
I don't think they're afraid of us. I think it's the institutions are so, they don't know. They're not used to cruising boats. They're not used to yachties.
No. The lady's right. They are very afraid. Egyptians are afraid of what they don't know in general, which technically means he's also right since they are not used to what they're doing. That, mixed with the immense paranoia of being an illegit system, as I've mentioned already, this is a very logical outcome, really. Especially if you consider the fact that all the people calling shots here are crusty, old, out-of-touch retards disconnected from not just the modern age, but all of reality itself. They're pretty much delusional.
And it just becomes exhausting. And now we're almost in a state of anxiety and insecurity because we don't know what's going to happen here at Taba. We don't know if there's people still trying to shake us down here. And we've been here for 2.5 months.
Staying here longer as a foreigner will not necessarily make things easier for you. Sure, you get some experience and adapt a little bit, but the Western mind just cannot comprehend or accept the way people are forced to live here. I mean, just look at how confused these guys look. To me, all they have said so far sounds like just another Tuesday. Having no freedom is normal, having no rights is whatever. Being shook down by the government is daily practice. Actually, speaking of that topic, let me hit you with a heavy fact. We, Egyptians, pay more taxes than people in the first world. Let that sink in for a bit. Now, I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I have proof, but let me just explain. It's a little bit more insidious here, because it's not in one big clear-cut bulk. Instead, it's tiny bits here and small amounts there that all add up to being more than 100% of shit's value in most cases, especially imports and things being shipped from abroad, gifts included. We are taxed on gifts we get from outside. Now, I don't know if this is the case everywhere else, but if it is, it's bullshit nonetheless. Here's the proof I have. Here's an example I yoinked off the internet. It says here, this paper is custom clearance for a chocolate bar someone sent to someone in Egypt via DHL. The chocolate itself cost 193 EGP. Now let's look at the taxes. 180 custom duties, 68 value added tax, 10 Egyptian national post fee, 259 customs additional charges, 200 permit/license, 2.2 import paperworks. I don't fucking know why they even put a 2.2. The fuck is 2.2 pounds gonna do for anyone? Never mind, continue. 260 customs clearance, 220 advance payment, 0.11 value added tax for DHL service, 26 value added tax for DHL service again, total 1284.31 Egyptian pounds. That is more than 600% of the original thing's value as tax for a fucking chocolate bar. And keep in mind, let's not forget here, we don't fucking get any of the benefits any first worlder get. Our healthcare is shit, our education is even shittier, infrastructure is ass, public services don't exist, the list goes on. I can't be bothered to look up car prices again to account for inflation, but I've done it a while ago for this video right here. And back then, a Honda Civic cost roughly around 28k US dollars in here. Back then, which was enough to get you like 6 of the Honda Civics in the United States. Why is that? Because of customs. Anyway, back to Boat Daddy.
We've done everything by the book, and even though someone, one person says you're good from a government agency, and then the next government agency says, no, you're in trouble, we're going to fine you. Or the next government agency says, no, you're fine. And then your agent says you're fine. You don't know who to believe. You don't know who has the final authority here, and that's what breeds the insecurity here in Egypt. Right now, I can't recommend staying long-term here because I can't even recommend stopping here. Stop, get some fuel, and go straight to the Suez and get out of here. They are not ready for yachties. I mean, I've got knots in my stomach right now going in here to Port Taba to check out of the country. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just a bad deal. It's not good. We've tried our best to make this a great experience cruising in Egypt, but their institutions will not allow that to happen. Their institutions are all about control. They're so wanting to control everything, from the Navy to the Coast Guard. They make us write letters, apology letters. They insist that we write apology letters anytime there's a misunderstanding, stating what a great time. The misunderstandings are when they come out to harass us, and then they want us to apologize for them harassing us. It's crazy. It's the craziest thing.
Whoa. What? This is new? I know how audacious these fuckers get, but this is new. This is psychopathic behavior. Forcing an official apology like that when they're the one at fault? That's fucked up. Man, I'm so fucking happy they made this video. This needs to go more viral. Everyone needs to know what a corrupt state of control this place is. This has like 300,000 views in 6 days. Not bad, but I could definitely use more. Go watch it after this and get the algorithm on it, goddammit.
And we're just tired of it. We want to get out. We want to be done with Egypt. And that's what we're doing. And hopefully here in Taba, we don't have any issues.
Same, man. Fucking hell, I hope I get to say that myself one day.
Finally, I got out of there. The only way you can protect yourself is to film. And that's the only way you can protect yourself, is to film what's going on. And they don't like being filmed. Their navies, their police, their coast guards, they do not like being filmed when they're harassing you, when they're doing anything to you.
Yes and no. you gotta be smart about it and assess the situation first. While it does document the incident and create proof for if anything happens, it might also be the cause of a whole new incident that wasn't gonna happen otherwise. That is why I instead would recommend recording without their knowledge, as I mentioned earlier. Aside from saving you the hassle and trouble, it will also let you get the truest form, because they do not do 100% on camera, believe it or not. As bad as they may seem, it's dialed down when they're aware they're on record. Of course, that is for foreigners only. If I went up to a cop, all nilly-willy, and tried to fill him, without the mask of course, this is just asking for a bullet, I would get into hell trouble for it. Best case scenario, I would be told off, but I wouldn't even rule out getting shot on the spot if I picked the wrong guy or the wrong time.
And it's not, you know, you think, oh, they're just asking for your passport, they're asking for your papers. When 3 different people ask for your papers every single day, and then the next day, they ask for them again at the next anchorage, and they ask for them again at the next anchorage. It's just very overwhelming. I loved Egypt. I loved the beautiful, the Gulf of Aqaba, the Sinai, Sharm el-Sheikh, all of that area, El Guna. There should be 1,000 boats down there. There should be 1,000 yachties sitting there every winter. I love that place. The diving's great, but Egypt was tough. Egypt became tough after 2 months there, 3 months, however long we spent there. It was very tough, very expensive, and very tough.
Exactly. We should be making fucking fat stacks off of tourism alone. We have everything for it. We've got history, we've got warm beaches, we've got cold beaches, we've got culture, we've got the motherfucking Nile. We've even got some modern attractions. We have fucking everything. The fact that we make 12% of our GDP from tourism is not a flex, as most people present it. It's an embarrassment. If we had just fucking decent management, just decent, not even great, we would be something else. But nope. Old bastards have to have their control. It is such a damn shame.
Saudi Arabia, we never did get harassed at all. Saudi Arabia was perfect kindness everywhere we went. Nobody ever harassed us.
I don't know much about Saudi Arabia, I can't talk about it, but as a close outsider observing, they seem to be going up. I've been hearing a lot of good steps from there, and I hope they keep at it. If I'm doing some wishful thinking, it might even give me some hope that maybe one day this shithole could too.
You serious?
Probably not within my lifetime though, if I'm being real with you.
Somebody never came up to you and said, where's your papers? Where's your papers? Where's your passport? Let me see all your boat papers. What are you doing here? So they didn't harass us, they just let us be.
That is all Egypt had to do. That is all they had to do for everything. Let shit be. Things would be better for literally everyone if they did that, including themselves. But no, the fucking military mindset cannot let anything be. They can't relinquish control. That is why everything is going to shit, because even when they are in control, the shit they're enforcing is not even good. They are out of touch and delusional.
Except the one time.
It is still the Arab world after all. There has to be a but or an except. I wish there was a but, goddammit.
We went on land and they said, hey, you can't go on land. You can't go on that beach. You can't get off your boat. You have to stay on your boat and be in the water. So that was the only thing we experienced in Saudi Arabia. But other than that, it was a great time. It was a great adventure. I think that they're working on it. I think Egypt is going to be a great spot.
No, they're not, bro. You're being way too optimistic. The only thing they're working on right now is making more money, or squeezing more money out of people. For themselves, of course, not the country or the people. None of the projects or developments within the past decade have had actual value of any sort. And even the ones that did have some were not worth the cost, and it wasn't their time either, since there are other pressing issues, like your currency crashing and people going hungry. I would believe the Saudis might be working on it though, since they're on the way up and they are going through changes right now.
Saudi Arabia is definitely working on it. Jordan is there. They're the closest. Israel is easy. Israel has 100% freedom of movement. They just don't have any maritime facilities, no marinas, no places to dock and get anywhere from weather or anything like that if you're there.
Israel, the country that the majority of its neighbors don't want there, country that is constantly controversial and generally militarized, has less regulation and control than us, a sad little dusty corner in Africa that has already peaked centuries ago but still have delusions of grandeur. And for the record, I'm not defending Israel here, I'm shitting on Egypt.
Once again, the people of Egypt are super nice and super kind. And Saudi Arabia, I can't say enough about them. A lot of dear friends there, a lot of friends in Egypt. And here's the deal, the people on the ground, the Bedouin tribes, whether they be in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia, in Israel, Jordan, it doesn't matter. The Bedouins are super nice people. The local people in the local villages, the local fishermen in Egypt, you'd be sitting out there and there'd be all these little fishermen with their nets and all the stuff. They're super nice guys. I'd go out there and talk to them or try to talk to them. They'd offer me tea and Turkish tea or Egyptian tea, and they were catching fish, and they're really nice people. It's just the institutions, the government institutions.
Same shit everyone says. People good, government bad. I wouldn't fault them, honestly. A fair share of people here are actually good people, if you avoid certain topics. And frankly, for fleeting interactions like this, Egyptians and Arabs generally pass with flying colors.
They are the ones that really made it hard for us.
And us too, mate. It's hard for us too. Think of life as a cock, and our government as a bottle of blue pills.
If you do go there to cruise, you can, and it can be done, but you better have a lot of patience. You need a little bit of money, and you've got to understand what you're dealing with and how things are going.
By watching YouTube vids from people who have experienced it, like my man here, and honest locals like myself.
I'd never, in all the world travels, I'd never was nervous about losing my boat like I was the last week or two there in Egypt. I was worried that I was going to be in big trouble there. I was worried that things were going to go south. I had to write letters to the government, had to write letters to the Navy, and it's not good. And it's evening prayer time, so that's what you're hearing.
I genuinely thought this was outside, but I was so confused because I'm watching at night time. Of course it's in the fucking video. I forgot Turkey is also a Muslim majority like us.
That wraps up what we experienced in Egypt. I think is great. I think it's a great place to go winter. I think in the next 5 or 10 years, especially once the Egyptian government ministries watch this, they're going to be like, we got to do some more changing. And they are changing. And there's a lot of people in Egypt who want it to change. And just make sure you have a good agent if you're going to spend any amount of time there in Egypt, because you're going to need it.
No. I really love the enthusiasm. I do, but the only changes this will make on their end is even more paranoia and scrutiny. This is not their first expose, and certainly not the last. They never ever seek to improve themselves. They just try to uphold the pretty fake image they have convinced themselves and a few other people of. And the only way they know how to do so is to silence and intimidate whistleblowers like you and me. But he is right about people wanting change, and I think change will eventually come. It will inevitably come. For the better, maybe. Hopefully. If anything, it will make my mission easier. I don't plan on staying here even if things get better, but if it does, my goal would be feeling a lot more realistic all of a sudden. Great video. I genuinely enjoyed it and learned a lot from it. That is a very fresh perspective on it. We don't often see people trying to come here with their boats. I'm not surprised they ran into pretty much the same bullshit people have on land, but it is great to have that idea confirmed through experience nonetheless. As always, I have cut out a lot of their footage, so if you want to see the full thing, it's linked downstairs, and I actually encourage you to. It was really interesting and entertaining. Thanks to Sailing Zatara for making the video, and thanks to you for watching to the end. If you would like to support me, you could buy me some coffee. And if you become a member, you get some exclusive content and a special spot on the outro. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Thanks. Bye.